Welcome everybody to another great day of the KeSPA Cup 2018. I'm Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy with our host Lee Hyung-kyung, who's going to be handling the interviews. We have a couple of fantastic games to go into today. DAMWON Gaming up against BRION Blade is going to be the first one. Then later on tonight we will have SKT up against APK Prince. A smashing day indeed, Papa Smithy.
And I know a lot of our viewers, especially on the global side, already want it to be 8 p.m. Korean Standard Time, already want it to be SK Telecom's 2019 roster. But I'm actually super hyped to see DAMWON Gaming, the team that was said to be beating teams in scrims around the World Championships. Both the likes of Invictus Gaming and Fnatic were losing scrims to DAMWON Gaming. It's going to be really cool to see one of our newest LCK teams in our first series. We've already got a couple of quarterfinals. Firming, Genji against Sandbox, of course, is the one. And then GC Busan on the first day were able to qualify through. So there's a lot of fun going on in that second round, but still some business to get through. 3 more of these first round matches are left.
Yep, there will be 2 today and then 1 tomorrow before we do round out the round of 16 here. So far, it's been very fun at the KeSPA Cup. We've been seeing a lot of the different meta. It's very aggressive, very in your face. Usually, the teams that come out ahead in the first 15 minutes are the ones that do end up winning, unless, you know, we do have some throws. We have had a couple here in the KeSPA Cup, but generally the ones that are aggressive and win the lane more are the teams that end up winning, and that's a fun meta for everyone.
But the rulers come in, the principals come in, and it's too much fun, Valdez. We're going to have to cut down on the fun, as we've been informed by our Riot Games overlords that Nico is no longer available, at least for today's play, but foreseeably maybe for the rest of the KeSPA Cup because of some bugs.
Yeah, some bugs involving her profile pictures still showing that she's alive after she died.
Yep.
Her CS, that's the biggest one, but her CS numbers are incorrect, so you don't exactly know how much CS she's getting. Could be more, could be less, and then there's a bunch of other smaller bugs that
when she
are kind of annoying.
Disguises herself, the items don't show clearly on the scoreboard overlay, and I believe in-game there might be some issues as well. So regardless, we've seen Nico, and honestly, Nico, it's not like we're removing a super power pick based on how the effective games have been going. There's been a lot of first pick Nico or first round Nico, but largely it's been losses. So at the end of the day, it's not necessarily, say, removing Gragas from Worlds a couple of years ago that was such a big thing. But we'll get back to the Nico point. Let's zoom in on DAMWON Gaming. Here's a roster that stayed together. This roster got promoted, a lot of hype around especially their solo laners, Nogari and Showmaker. But Nuclear and Hoyt, a top 10 solo queue coming into the piece. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is the first coach name there, Kim Jung-soo, who in fact was the coach of Invictus Gaming when they became world champions just over a month ago. So even on the coaching side, that's where they've made their own significant addition. The roster was already strong, dominated challenger. It's been seen as a big contender for LCK Spring 2019. So a lot to talk about with DAMWON Game.
You'd have to imagine that if you're the coach of the winning team of the World Championship, you kind of get to choose where your next job is going to be. So you would have to imagine that the head coach there would have chosen DAMWON Gaming after seeing them in scrims, after losing to them and seeing the potential that they do have. It's just another thing that adds to the hype of this team that just has so much hype behind them, involved in scrims, their solo queue ranks, Showmaker, and all these other players that are so fantastic at winning lane and being aggressive. I think this meta is going to serve them so well as long as it does continue into next year. But they are going to be going up against BRION Blade, the old Kongdu monster being taken over here with a bunch of new names coming in.
First time under this new sponsorship organization here, the BRION Blade organization, and actually a new 5-man roster, so no players return from Kongdu Monster's failed bid to once again become LCK Spring every year. They were able to do that for so many seasons in a row, but that streak stopped at 3. Do not make it through to LCK Spring 2019. And now with a new roster, we'll have to see what to make of them. It's kind of a who's who of players who've finished high in Challenger before, some new players as well, so it definitely doesn't leap off the page. Only Fate is a name that I'm really acquainted with because he played a lot on the winners lineup last season that almost got promoted themselves. So going to have to learn a lot about them, and a tall task for sure against DAMWON Gaming. But if you just zoom in on Challengers games, and again, these are different iterations of rosters. It is 4-4, so look, we found some hype before we actually get into the games.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's something there, I suppose, but if you take a look at 2018 with the new DAMWON roster, very similar to what it is now, you'll see, hey, I mean, these guys are dominating the old Kangdu Monster, and they are a super strong team. I mean, we're not even talking about these guys in Challengers Korea anymore. They're an LCK team, and they're beating top LCK teams. So definitely there is that kind of separation that we have had here in the round of 16 so far, where it's one pretty strong LCK team up against, you know, a kind of middle-of-the-pack Challenger Korea team. Definitely BRION Blade is behind the 8 ball here. We're going to have to bring in some unique pick and bans, I'd say, to try to take something away from DAMWON Gaming.
Now, the one thing you can say on the side of BRION Blade is a lot of hypothesis, because where they finished in Challengers Korea Summer doesn't matter, because it's a new roster, right? So they could be way stronger or way weaker than third place in the regular season indicates for the Kangdu Monster lineup last time. That's entirely new roster because, again, some of these players aren't so well known. You do tend to think this is going to be a pretty big giant killing if BRION Blade was even going to be able to take a game. And DAMWON Gaming, they have a point to prove, because this is a team that so many people, just because of murmurs, are saying could be the best in the world, could be one of the best in the LCK next year. And you see the talent, right? Showmaker, Nogari, these guys have been popping off in solo queue for a long time. But actually being able to say these are like champions-elect of LCK Spring, the next Griffin, these are already very grand titles to be giving to a team that has shown nothing when it comes to top-level professional play, even at the KeSPA Cup, let alone LCK Spring. So a lot of expectation for DAMWON, very few results. Does the rubber hit the road, or is it tricky for DAMWON Gaming? We'll find out very soon.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I mentioned on Twitter, you know, it's the most hyped lineup in terms of the team that everybody expects to be so strong going into next year. But guys, we are going to jump into the picks and bans here for game number 1. BRION is going to be on the blue side, and DAMWON will start on red.
Remember, guys, patch 824B, and as we just pulled up on the screen, a Nico global ban has been applied for at least today. Again, this is largely graphical bugs. There's still some client-side issues that are causing the players, and just in general, some discomfort. We've already talked about a couple of it in our pre-game, but it's to do with just how the things are showing on the scoreboard, the fact that when the champion is dead on this tab menu, you can't clearly see that the champion is dead. So given all those frustrations, the Nico is done for now, but otherwise 824B, same as live servers, the latest patch has been applied. Looking at the bans very quickly, going to be the Aurelia Victor. So 2 flex champions already banned away, as we know that Showmaker and Nogari, if it is even kind of like a carry, 100% these 2 players play them.
They just get a whiff of carriness on a champion, and they'll say, okay, we'll play it. The one that does stick out for me right now is the Akali, but the Cassiopeia, not an assassin, but definitely known to be higher up on the tier list than anything else right
now. For
now.
certain. It was insta-locked without any thought. We've seen a bot lane. It can, of course, go mid and top, depending on the matchup. And if you're willing to play a carry, there's always a potential that Cassiopeia has a winning matchup into that. So already something to think about on the side of DAMWON. We'll see how DAMWON respond. Considering just picking up one of Nuclear's old favorites, the Lucian. Of course, Lucian has plenty of respect. You can take it into the Cassiopeia. Because it's a mid-range AD carry, outside of the Q trades, you can actually be potentially all in there. So there's still some validity to the Cassiopeia if it ends up being a Lucian matchup. Jungle pool is basically not hit outside of Camille and the outside chance of an Aatrox jungle, I guess. So given that, they're considering, and look at this, Punch goes to something that he would default to back when he looked like a shining light on Kangdu Monster a couple of years ago in his one kind of strong split in the LCK, or at least strong first half of the split. His Kha'Zix was actually pretty good. Kha'Zix Lee Sin is what I think about when I think of Punch, and maybe the odd Nidalee. So given that, Kha'Zix is taken, already going for a lot of aggression from the jungle, and you have to feel like, just like GC Busan, can't imagine DAMWON's going to have too much beef. There's going to be a lot of carry potential on the red side.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. I do love that it's not only the top and the mid guys that are going to be getting really aggressive. It's also Punch from the jungle. They hovered the Lee Sin, they give it over, and take a look. Broccoli, one of my favorite names here in the KeSPA Cup, is going to be playing Lee Sin. So some high-end fiber Lee Sin. We'll see what it can do. Hoyt looking at that Alistair and is going to pick that up.
Well, they got the literal beef, so they'll take that to the bank and spend it as much as possible. They have the Alistair, probably going to be the only pseudo-tank on the lineup from the support role, especially when their ultimate is available. Hoyt and Nuclear, they often are kind of overlooked when you discuss DAMWON gaming. You kind of fawn over Showmaker and Nogari because these guys are really amazing mechanical players. What I want to say about Nuclear and Hoyt, you add their challenger ranks together, it only reaches 10. They are rank 4 Hoyt and rank 6 Nuclear on the Korean challenger ladder. I was actually had the chance, you and I, to speak to Nuclear in the dressing room. Of course, his English is great, having played on H2K last year. And he was very surprised that I checked up his challenge. I'm like, it's not very hard. You're literally top 6 ranks. So you're going to be very, very conspicuous up there. These guys are in great form, and they were kind of one of the weaknesses. It was maybe attack the bot lane, and the top side won't be able to carry enough. With the form they're in, and Hoyt had a wonderful promotion match, as you and I cast not so long ago. So bot lane already locked in. Could still be Nogari on this Lucian top lane as well. We should remember that, given his proficiency to play such picks. We'll see where the draft rounds out from here. I imagine another flex champion, unless there's a real priority pick that DAMWON Gaming have their eyes on.
Yeah, you notice the 2 bans there from BRION Gaming. Definitely playing into BRION, knowing exactly what DAMWON would like to go into as well. The LeBlanc there for Showmaker makes a ton of sense. He played so much of that. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, as he is very overly aggressive, almost cocky in the way that he tries to be aggressive with that champion.
Valdez, you remember yesterday when we just left Vayne out there, you know, whispered a name, it didn't come to be, ended up just being a load of rubbish. What about Ryze going in whatever lane KeSPA is in? That could also happen, given that we saw Ryze bot lane before, and it's a matchup that's teetered to the left and right. Ryze versus KeSPA as old as time. Bit of a developing story, but it does fulfill the flex champion we were talking about with Nuclear's pick, so we'll wait and see what the solution is with the Ryze, and we're waiting for BRION Blade to commit to where the champion's going. Probably going to be Sion top, and yeah, it does see KeSPA bot lane.
There it is.
Sion top, and blind Syndra. Syndra, very good choice into the Ryze, so you want to avoid that matchup if you're DAMWON Gaming.
Oh.
Katarina, we know this is the famous pick from Showmaker. Is he just going to show it here? Red side last pick's always the time to unleash a cat. Would you dare into Syndra? That sounds really damn tricky, but Showmaker, he's going to hover. He's going to lock it in, baby!
There we have it. Katarina comes out here in game number 1 for Showmaker. He's not wasting any time bringing it out here in the KeSPA Cup.
So that means Ryze top lane. Are they going to actually flex Syndra top here, I wonder? Because Syndra into Ryze top lane has happened before. Syndra versus Cat is what you see normally, and you think that's going to be a pretty damn strong matchup for the Syndra. But it's Showmaker. This guy made his name as a Katarina one-trick. One of the reasons that teams didn't pick him up earlier is that he only played Katarina for the majority of his career when it came to solo queue. Eventually, broadened his champion pool, but he's back to the Katarina, and that means the hype levels are through the roof.
Into the Syndra as well. He's just not wasting any time. He doesn't seem to care about what he's going up against. Played it into the Azir. That's his champion, right?
What did I say to the coach?
Insane.
We also spoke to the coach, and I said, what about the Showmaker Katarina? He's like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you know, makes sense.
This was effectively a blind pick. He's like, oh yeah, Syndra, what could that do? I'm fine, I'm playing Katarina. Showmaker's gonna pop off, and this guy, the name is not just, you know, an awkward translation or a dictionary situation here. This is a guy who likes to pop his collar. This is a guy who likes to outplay. Even if you remember those promotion matches, he wasn't playing to get promoted. He was playing to get YouTube highlights.
The LeBlanc, that's what I was talking about. He's way over-aggressive, super cocky, in your face. He gets ahead, and then he's like, let me try to go 1v2 and see if I can make a cool highlight.
They bring out the world champion coach, and just like when you're dealing with someone like the Shy and someone like Rookie, you say, you're feeling it, you play it. So Showmaker jumping on the Katarina means it's already must-watch League of Legends, and that's before we even get SK Telecom T1 on the Rift.
Yeah. Get out there, guys. Get on Twitter or whatever and tell people that Showmaker is playing Katarina here in the KeSPA Cup. Get them into YouTube. Get them into Africa. And we should have a lot of fun in this game. It's going to be a very fun time. But first, we're going to go into the interview with one of our coaches here.
안녕하세요.
Coach from DAMWON Gaming. There he is.
첫 경기를 선보일 수 있는 기회가 생겼습니다. 아무래도 담원 게이밍의 기대가 지금 하늘을 찌르고 있기 때문에 그에 따른 좀 부담도 되실 것 같은데요. 코치님 어떠세요?
담원 게이밍이
So you guys just made it into LCK, but there's a lot of rumors how great you guys are. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel any pressure?
충족시키는 게 저희 직업이 아닐까 생각해요.
Our results are great. That's why people have a lot of expectations.
복한규 감독이나 뱅 선수뿐만 아니라 정말 많은
Yeah,
분들이
fulfilling their expectations is our job, basically.
그 이유 중 하나가 또
So we're not feeling the pressure. It's just what we have to do.
코치님이 계셔서가 아닐까 하는 생각이 드는데 코치님은 좀 구체적으로 선수들에게 어떤 도움을 주고 계신가요?
They have a big expectation on the coaches as well.
피지컬은 좋은데 게임을 이기는
Because
방법을
of course
몰라서
this is the
게임적으로 이제 운영적으로 콜적으로 이제 뭐 아직 기초 단계부터 시작하고 있는 것 같아요.
아무래도 이 선수들의 합을
So he says, you know, we coaches have done well, but try to focus on the players that have great skill. You know, they are really the stars, but you know, we're just trying to focus on improving their teamwork overall.
어떤 선수일까요?
뭐 전체적으로 다 잘하는 친구들인데 쇼메이커 선수가 항상 든든하게 제 역할을 잘해주기 있어서.
So all your players are fantastic, but you had to focus on one player to pick as maybe the best one. Who would it be? He says Showmaker.
Of course.
He's the Showmaker, right? And
물론 좀 버전 이후에 너프가 됐다고는 하지만 아직까지 굉장히 좀
he's great. So you guys let them have Cassiopeia. She got nerfed a little bit on 824B.
네,
But how are you feeling about picks and bans after giving away the Cassiopeia?
저희도
He says, yeah, she's top tier, god tier champion right now.
같이 반반 가져왔다고 생각해요.
But we also picked champions that we were planning on playing in this matchup. So even though we gave over the Cassiopeia, we're still satisfied with our pick and ban. So there we have it. Thank you very much for that interview. Good to feel the insights from that coach.
The insight is, we like what we got, we don't care about what they got, and that's maybe a nameplate's own thing. This is heavily expected to be DAMWON Gaming coming in and flexing, but expectations have been up and down, right? We've seen, of course, Hanwha Live get eliminated, so anything could happen. Let's get into this first series, Valdez.
We're ready to do it, guys. First game of the night here at KeSPA Cup 2018. It's going to be DAMWON Gaming up against BRION Blade. Let's jump into game number 1.
Zoom, zoom, go the champions. We get started 30 seconds into game 1 of our first game of the day. First real super hype day to me. Of course, the first day of a patch is cool, but seeing DAMWON Gaming playing and seeing the Cat Arena just feels like we're cheating. And you know what? Of course, what rune do you take if you're Showmaker on Cat Arena? You want to get as many Dark Harvest stacks as possible.
Yeah.
Most people would take Electrocute after the multitude of nerfs, but the reliability of proccing that once you get a couple stacks late game, if you got 10 stacks of the Dark Harvest, getting Shunpone, you might already be getting a Dark Harvest stack right there. That is a cool one to see. Showmaker sticking with what made his name. Again, if you're joining us late, this guy was a Katarina one-trick on the ladder before he went into the professional scene. And he's not a Katarina sometimes player. It's a Katarina whenever he can get away with it player. And he feels like game 1 into Syndra. Remember, this was an answer to Syndra. Is a time that he can make it work.
Also excited to see how they're going to deal with the Cassiopeia bottom lane. We saw yesterday up against a Yasuo Alistar bot lane. It was pretty ridiculous how much pressure they had. I think it should be a little bit easier for Lucian to deal with that. Obviously, he does have some range there, and they can put on a little bit of pressure themselves, but they are up against the Tom Kents as well. I know all eyes are going to be on the mid lane for this one, but, you know, just wanted to say my piece about the bot lane as well.
And aren't you happy you prepped all your Katarina notes before today started? We were on the train over to the venue, and I said, you should definitely be ready for Katarina. This is very much Showmaker trying to make a name for himself once again in front of a new audience here for the KeSPA Cup. And here he is. He's on the Katarina, just bouncing, blading his way away. Look at me, I prepped too on the Katarina earlier. Again, I feel like because Lucian is so mid-range, outside of Q trades as the levels come, Cassiopeia's going to be really happy against Lucian early, and we already know from our Alistar Yasuo lane that Alistar early level is not going to do too much and was nerfed further. Whereas level 3 all-in with Trample taking a big level 1 damage nerf. So bot lane's kind of going to be vacated for the foreseeable future, and given that, if you're Kha'Zix, outside of a real cheese gank on mid, which is hard to happen, Katarina doesn't offer much in a gank, I think top lane is where you desperately want to go to try and follow up with the Rise pressure and the Rise instant cast CC, but Sion himself, very difficult to get through.
Yeah, we'll see if he does make his way up here. Not a bad time right now, but you can see just continuing those amazing trades that Rise is going to have. And They spotted the Lee Sin going into the blue buff, and that means that we are going to have the vertical jungling here. Punch coming in here, going to steal his blue buff on the top side.
And I want to shout out some of the players on BRION Blade, because obviously we're just super hyped to get to see DAMWON Gaming again. The top laner Cube, who played over in the TCL, he played over in Turkey for Galacticos, is one of the players kind of pretty hyped on this roster. Was speaking to 2Pound, one of the people around the LCK community and LCK Discord, and he was really kind of likening him to Impact, especially Impact in his prime, being able to manage carries and also the tanks really, really well. And that's something that we're going to need to see here, because it's the top laner sense in a scenario where you look at your champs, you look at the enemy champs and say, well, Kha'Zix can really only gank for top, given that Ryze has that hard CC and bot lane's in such a struggle. So just like we saw from our Rumble a couple of days ago, a lot of kiting back, a lot of respect needs to be shown. Even the early levels before first buy, you want to take advantage of the very brittleness that the Ryze provides in lane.
That he does. Speaking about laning, you know, the Katarina, especially early game against the Syndra, did bring 3 pots to the lane alongside that longsword, so can last it a little bit easier on the Katarina, also can survive a bit, but still is going to be hard to deal with all of the harass that the Syndra is going to bring to that lane. So he's been pushed in. It doesn't look good so far, but that's just kind of the way that the lane is going to go for now, guys. So don't be worried. If you're waiting for Showmaker to pop off, he just needs a little bit of time.
Exactly. Pre-6 Katarina, outside of the cheesiest of ganks, so 3 people piling in mid is not going to lead to too much. So the smurfing from the Katarina not happening in this game just yet. Nameplate's on. And Fate was a really good mid laner on Winners. He was taking game time away from the other mid laner they had on that lineup. They had 2 different mid laners, and they were swapping between them quite frequently. And given that scenario, Knight and Fate just swapping time, that means that he clearly is someone who's going to draw a lot of respect. Again, the Katarina seems brazen. The 3-pot start is going to have to be chugged through, but the moment the Gunblade comes out, just like with Akali, we know what to expect.
Yeah, even doing a pretty good job so far, not too far down on the CS, only about 8, and has only chugged 1 of those pots. They might go for this gank up here on the top side. There's the 2-second root. Now Cube does have his shield.
And they got a summoner out of this. They're going to try.
They're going to try. They do have a decent amount of burst damage. Doesn't look like the Cube landed there. It was a little bit of a weird animation, but either way, Cube does get away without using any of his summoners.
Showmaker taking what you would expect when you conceptualize the matchup on paper. You just see those trades and the ultimate being something that Shunpo and Flash, it's not going to be helpful to try to dodge. So given that, of course, there is going to definitely be some windows for Fate to make things happen. Got effectively a level 6 jungler. We don't see too much Lee Sin pressure before 6 going on around him. So it's not like he has his own Kha'Zix to really guarantee those kills. But Katarina picks up 5 out of 6 minions per wave. She's going to be pretty damn happy, all things considered.
Yeah. We are on the new patch, which means that these first Drakes are very strong. So far, we do see Broccoli hanging around that bottom side. Could try to go for it as the Kha'Zix is up in the top side just backing, but not going to look there just yet. Going to hang around this mid lane and give Fate all the pressure he needs to continue shutting down Showmaker and making sure that Fate does not get ganked. They have some nice warding up on the top side, even avoiding that 1 control ward that the side of DAMWON Gaming did put down. So Broccoli can stay on the right side, kind of body ward here up against Punch and say, okay, you're going to be totally safe in the mid lane.
And before items, I think you give the incredible edge to mid and bot lane here for the side of BRION Blade. I saw the BRB there, which is, again, probably the best tag ever, right? They now own BRB for all time, so congratulations. You got a sick tag there. BRION Blade to use in Challenger. I think BRION Blade is feeling really comfortable about where they're at before kind of the level 11s and the items come in, because what I can say about DAMWON Gaming is it's very new school. This is what you expect on this patch when it comes to snowball comps with high damage that can get 3 kills at 20 minutes and take a Baron. That's what you're talking about here for DAMWON. It's very much a pick comp, and then Showmaker trying to get as many resets as possible and Dark Harvest stacks in a team fight. So given that, very brittle comp that's very much about burst damage and pick, there's still team fight options on both sides, but neither of them really about that. And for BRION Blade, they just don't want to take any liberties because these sort of trades can happen.
Nuclear getting baited in here big time against Alive. Now Broccoli breathing down his neck. Gonna flash on in here. Nuclear flashes away, but that's a done deal. First blood goes over to Broccoli. Now they're looking for the stun here on Hoyt. That's a double kill. Fantastic gank, great bait there by Alive, and they get a double kill in the bot lane.
Timings was so clean on that play. Nuclear did not even hit level 6. The level 6 comes out for Alive, and the burst damage is enough to allow Lee Sin the time to come and cut them down. Look at this. They're going to lose a couple of checkpoints at least onto this turret. Remember, guys, as you take down subsequent checkpoints, for every champion around the turret when that checkpoint goes down, armor and MR is gained. So it gets slower and slower. No quick turrets like there was in previous metas. Watch the replay here and consider the bait. Alive walks up and Nuclear going for the full trade, going for basically a 3/4 chunk. He wasn't satisfied with just half health. They weren't taking any risks either. Broccoli flashing in, doesn't want to go for any skill shots that could be dodged. This is just really well put together, and the level discrepancy important between the duo lanes.
Yeah, hard to even really fault them there, but big first fight in the mid lane. Lots of MR picked up there by Showmaker going for the Hex Drinker first. Actually, up against Fate, really showing that respect up against Syndra and what she can provide in magic damage.
It's a style choice that was seen, I wouldn't say commonly, but did come out infrequently against burst mid laners like LeBlanc, and the Syndra was in fact this Hex Drinker on a champion like Katarina, who has AD and AP scaling to spare. It's why Gunblade, of course, is a core, so you don't lose too much. Obviously, it's not an ideal min-max build for damage, but you can't take too many liberties when you picked Katarina into Syndra. You have to show some respect. So he's going to hope that Hex Drinker, Merc Treads into Gunblade will be enough to deal with the pretty immense burst range that a Syndra provides.
Well, we were told to look down into this bottom side, but after that first gank and the Cassiopeia versus pretty much anyone down there, if she has a support, her lane dominance gets even that more annoying to deal with, especially if you only have an Alistar to help you. Pushing for that checkpoint, Nuguri is able to pick up that extra gold, so 160 extra goes over to him.
And in a lane that's seen no intervention from either side, no surprise that Sion as a melee champion is never at chance of dying, but also going to be pretty comfortably behind us. This is probably bigger than I expect. I would have thought 10 because Sion has so many ridiculous amount of ranged farming abilities to try to pick up those minions, but lets you know pretty clearly that Sion is struggling to keep pace with Noguri, and he's scaling up. He wants to show up with 1.5 mana items around that mid-game point where we know level 11 we mentioned is where DAMWON Gaming really starts to kick it up. But until those things happen, until these lanes are arrested, the pressure is on the side of BRION Blade as we outlined, and that means that a solo of an of a Cloud Drake should be trivial for the Lee Sin on the side of BRION Blade.
Already Lee Sin, who picked up the 2 kills there. Broccoli making a name for himself, coming in here, the best vegetable in all League of Legends. Gets that Cloud Drake. There's an Infernal next, and now they're making a move towards the bottom side. They're going to be spotted on a ward, but that does mean that this turret probably going down.
Bot lane party. The checkpoint hasn't actually armed yet, so the next checkpoint will mean the armor and MR is going to be 3. Lucian wants to try a culling as Syndra.
Okay, going for that burst damage punch. Is going to be forced to flash away. Fate not using any of his summoners, just his ultimate, plus the bottom turret. First blood gold is going to go there. So good start here going to BRB.
And for a turret dive there, Showmaker wanted to get a round of damage, maybe half his Death Lotus before the Headbutt Pulverize and Ignite came through from Alistar, but the range didn't check out. He was already under turret, so backs away. No harm, no foul. Syndra ult being down allows Showmaker to play a lot more aggressively in mid. Remember that Dark Harvest, the style choice, has no stacks so far, if I'm remembering correctly. So given that, it'll be very slow, and the base damage as of 824B is very much on the low side. Fate continues in his lane, about a 6 CS mid lane matchup. So given the mid lane matchup, you actually feel really good. If you're the Katarina, to only be 1 minion wave behind 11 minutes in. So that part, predictably, for a guy who is a Katarina main, he knows how to play a counter matchup. Big surprise. The top lane going very, very well. But since bot lane has been such a struggle, the amount of pressure and presence on the map for DAMWON Gaming, that they kind of wanted to have some chance kills by 12 minutes and start already getting back into the game. It's an extension of the draft. It's an extension of the early game, and thus it's an extension of BRION Blade looking very comfortable.
Yeah, it's definitely a fantastic start to them. I mean, everybody was hyped about DAMWON Gaming. All the reporters in here only taking pictures of DAMWON Gaming. There was not a single one going over to BRION Blade, in the beginning at least. Eventually they got over there, but it was all about the hype at DAMWON Gaming. They're finally coming in. Everybody wants to watch them. And now BRION Blade comes out here strong. This is only one best of 3. I mean, we've seen other upsets happen before. So far, we'll see if they can keep it together. you know, Reverse Gaming had a pretty good start yesterday, but weren't really able to keep things together. So hoping that BRION Blade can kind of step it up from there.
And it makes you want to think about the meta point of when it comes to Scrim Gods, what percentage of the time do they hit based on their hype levels? I would say 30%.
Yeah.
More often than not, the Scrim Gods don't actually pan out early. You think of the most famous Western Scrim God and Golden Glue. It's only recently on Cloud9 where he started to fulfill the potential he clearly showed in Scrims for many, many years. And DAMWON Gaming are basically being champions elect or top 3 LCK elect based on Scrims almost exclusively. People rating them based on murmurs rather than on tape of top-level matchups. This is not the top-level matchup that will diagnose our hype levels for DAMWON, but people are ready on both sides to either elect them champions or say they're rubbish. That's what's the reality of playing when the hype is there. Let's see if DAMWON can make the next move, because you fall behind much further, things look better and better for BRION Blade.
Got to be real careful about this Rift Herald too. The plating is going to be down here in 10 seconds, but you also don't just want to give this objective away and allow BRION Blade to continue with the pressure in the early game. So they are going to effectively stop them there. They're all grouped up as 5 here. We might have our first big fight of the game. We also got Infernal Drake, you'll notice up in the top left, that is spawning in about a minute and a half. So always good to keep that in mind. That extra 80 in AP going to be fantastic, actually, for both of these teams.
It means somewhere is going to be a fight. I don't think you're going to allow this to be an easy trade. Rift Herald, as we know, is almost always contested pre-14 minutes. That was basically bang on 14 minutes that the Rift Herald was started there by the side of BRION Blade. Given where their champions are at, it's actually pretty big for DAMWON to just delay the Drake and not fight. They want to get at least a single item completion on Showmaker, who's got a bit of everything. The Sorcerer's Shoe is the only thing that's really core at the moment. The Gunblade's still on the way. The Blade of the Ruined King is a nice start for Nuclear, but definitely not the end of the story. Punch jumps over because they have the scuttle control here, and Q evolved already on Punch. He'll actually be able to solo this Rift Herald pretty quickly, and it's actually a 3-man reset from BRION Blade. This might actually be soloed out by Kha'Zix.
Yeah, notice also how he forces it to charge into the back of the pit, so in case there was any wards in that very popular spot where Hoyt was actually covering it, he keeps it in there. So should be able to get this down before anything happens. The smite comes in, and there you go.
That's actually a really big mistake from BRION Blade, a macro mistake, which again kind of lets us know they are a full 5-man new team. They are the Kongnu Monster rename and now a new org. You need to have much better fallback than just entirely 3-man recalling and basically abdicating any presence around top. They were controlling top. They were the ones that started off the Rift Herald pre-14 minutes. Then they 3-man reset, lose any control around there. Not even a spotting ward to the side there that wouldn't be swept out. They lose out on that objective. They'll start up on an Infernal, but the Rift Herald's already guaranteed, and this Infernal is still going to be on the menu, potentially contested by DAMWON.
Looks like for now, with the bottom lanes up the top side, no ward coverage over here. It's just going to be given on over to the side of BRION, so they're going to have both the Cloud Drake first Cloud Drake and the first Infernal by 16 minutes. So already a fantastic start for them in terms of those objectives. But DAMWON, they're looking down the top lane. They want at least a turret so far.
Feel great about getting a turret first for Nuclear to get him some gold, but they don't actually have the setup here. They don't have the deep wards we always talk about. So it's actually a pretty wantonly aggressive use of the Rift Herald without the proper prep and ends up looking a bit silly. So DAMWON Gaming definitely going to be some gaps in the playbook. We are not seeing the flawless play that perhaps people were already mentioning. Looking for some sort of kill as Punch actually has revealed himself and went back into the brush. It looked weird. There was some visual lag there. But regardless, given all of that, Nuclear and Hoyt back away. Because of those early kills, almost still the sins of the laning phase that are stopping anything around the duo lane from coming up positive for the side of DAMWON Gaming.
Yeah, Nuclear just having a really rough time. If you guys saw what that Noxus Blast could do the last time around, it's about a fourth of his health. So this is not even considering an ultimate or any E's coming in. It's just one Q, and that's a big thing you got to worry about here if you are dealing with that Cassiopeia. It's part of the reason why she's so strong right now on the current patch.
Starting to already think forward. Think of the interrupts available for the side of BRION Blade on the Death Lotus. That's always something you have to think about when it's the Katarina. Specifically, Sion obviously has the R. That's the most reliable way. Actually charging up the Q to interrupt, much more tricky. Broccoli's kick Syndra and her stun, of course, and Cassiopeia's ult are the most reliable ones. So always really fascinating to think about what the Katarina player sees, what cooldowns she knows are not available, and then just like Uzi on Vayne, you're wondering when Showmaker would choose the time to actually go for a super aggressive move. Teamfight's not necessarily what DAMWON have set up for. Again, we said they wanted their core items, control wards, and then picks into objective, pick into objective. The new meta we think that we're going to see pretty supremely are these sort of aggressive combos. Honestly, on both sides, we're seeing a lot of aggression. Only Sion really represents a remnant of the past. But because they don't have the map control, things are much slower than DAMWON would want. And outside of the huge CS advantage for Rise, things really comfortable for BRION Blade.
Noguri just, showing everybody what he's got. I mean, it's an advantageous lane for him, but he's having a lot of fun, landing all of his spells. Showmaker, so far, not really having too much fun, but he does have those items you were talking about. He's got the Gunblade, X-Drinker is finished, and next fight he should be ready to go. I also wanted to touch on Cassiopeia's items. We were talking about yesterday how it seemed like she was running out of so much mana because she didn't go for the Seraph's Embrace. No real big mana item, only the Ludens, and similar build that we do have here in the bot lane for Alive, so maybe this is just the standard for bottom Cassiopeia.
You talk about what it does. It bursts hard. At the end of the day, the Luden's proc Q is like 600 damage, especially when the Comet starts to come in. So it's a burst build. It's not an extended fight build. Issue was there was extended fighting with that build previously that didn't work out. So if you min-max it, it works like a lot of builds in League of Legends. Speaking of working, 4 members here on the top side. How much does DAMWON know about this?
Hoyt might be in a little bit of trouble here. Might be forced to ultimate. There it is, just barely able to get away after engaging. Just a small engage onto Alive, but you can see there was no follow-up because there were so many members of BRION Blade up in the top lane. Looks like they should be able to get this turret for free as well.
But it should be a trade all in all. Rise is going to get solo turret gold on the bot side. Maybe that was the call to dissuade Hoyt from going any more aggressive was, don't worry, it's a 1-for-1 even though the numbers are mismatched. So at the end of the day, it's again not a disastrous punch, looking for something.
Oh, checking that brush though. Very smart from Fate. I mean, this guy, you were talking about him. There's a reason he's hyped, and now he's going for Punch, who is very low on health. The flash forward, one more Q is gonna shut him down. Showmaker smartly gets the hell out of dodge there. Did not want any part of that. That's just another kill.
Great problem solving coming through from BRION Blade. They're not taking any liberties with things like unwarded brush. The picks are not coming. The Dark Harvest stacks aren't either. And all Katarina can do is watch on as this mid lane turret goes down and the lead is extended for BRION Blade.
Yeah, everybody thinking about, DWG Gaming, making it over to LCK, but how about this team coming in here and showing them up right now? The call coming in, the Abyssal Voyage, and the flash forward and Punch was just in a hell lot of danger.
Punch, in the end, thought that he could make the play that works reliably in solo queue. It doesn't because the extra checks are made. Full safety check done by the Syndra, and it actually ends up getting them a kill. Only good news story right now, again, farm total onto Showmaker is decent, and Noguri is trying to be that other side of the coin. Again, it is always the duo. It's always Noguri and Showmaker when you're talking about DWG Gaming. For the longest time, people were saying and whispering, Noguri to SKT, Noguri to SKT. He'll be the new SKT top player. Such was his hype level among the fans and among the players here in Korea. I thought he had the weakest of performances back at the promotion. You'll remember, he actually struggled trying to style too much.
Yeah.
He isn't struggling in a good matchup here. He's almost flame horizoning the Sion, and it feels like a lot of the burden for this game to catch what has been a pretty wonky early game from the side of DWG Gaming kind of falls on the lap of Noguri because it's really just a free-farmed Rise, nothing else to speak of.
Well, I suppose he's going to have a lot of fun in the side lane, but now he's being called up to the top side here. Maybe they can get some kind of room prison gank. He also does have his teleport. Maybe if they could get some kind of ward.
Showmaker taking a risk here.
Oh, he's going to be stunned, though. They might be able to burst him down. The Shumpo away, and now they will collapse. Look at that damage onto Broccoli. He's going to be kicked away. Abyssal Voyage comes in. They need just a little bit more, and Alistair is going to be able to take him out. Fate also incredibly low. It's a sandwich situation right now. Even Showmaker getting in the mix, and Punch always on the backside. Is he the one caught in with them, or they caught with him? He's trying to get away now. He is going to get the slow, but the poison takes down Hoyt. Also getting too close to the sun is going to be going down here. Noguri is going to be up to him. Can he go 1v4? Also, Lucian ultimate comes in, but the burst damage takes out Katarina on the backside, and now Noguri all by himself. Can he really do it? Trying to room prison away, but he is not able to as he does get stunned. Nuclear gonna be poisoned down as well. This Cassiopeia is insane. And there you go. The ace goes over to BRION Blade.
Skirmish Kings and DAMWON Gaming are just too far behind. They don't have the items, and the outplay there on the flash. Petrifying Gaze from Alive catches Nuclear. The Lucian has provided nothing. The first pick, Cassiopeia, has been vindicated. It's not going to be the fastest Baron because Alive is out of mana, but it will be Baron to BRION Blade. We start off the replay, and Showmaker starts this one off, trying to use the sweeper there for the check. Gets the information, but it's Syndra, so he's already out of the fight early, and things are going pretty decently. This could have just been a 1-for-1 because Punch decides to use his positioning as a, okay, that happened.
He actually got in there and stole it. Looks like it went over to the side of DAMWON Gaming. They pick up Baron. Looks like the Baron was too slow and Punch died too early. He got in there and stole it.
How could that happen? We were watching the replay. We couldn't even see it. We're going to have to see the replay to fully understand how they weren't able to do it. We knew it was a slow Baron, but that's slow. Holy moly.
Oh, boy.
We can't even talk about the team fight because Baron to DAMWON Gaming, and maybe this is exactly what they need, is the Korean casters are laughing already because that should have been doors shut, closed, no more openings for DAMWON Gaming, but they're getting a government bailout out of nowhere.
I mean, you're 0-3-0, but that just might be the thing that brings your team back into the game. You could be the MVP of your team, even at 0-3-0.
So Alive almost dies to Baron damage randomly. Punch comes in, 1283, gets the second smite in. The second smite is the deadliest, and that is definitely not what BRION Blade deserve for a wonderful first 22 minutes. Suddenly, there's a life alive for the side of DAMWON Gaming.
Yeah, Broccoli had a great early game. You know, it's one of these newer guys, I suppose you can call him. He's been around for a bit in the Challenger Series, but unfortunately Punch gets in there and is able to take the cake just in time. Good patience there on the smite, waited just a little bit. Was able to pick it up, and now, I mean, even though DAMWON Gaming is down 3,000 gold, this game is not decided by any means.
Another replay on our monitors, and so it was actually just a straight-up smite by Punch, and amusingly, they seemed to smite it afterwards, so they wouldn't have smite available. It looked like he was close. Sion for some nice drifting, but isn't going to do anything other than chase them away. But this should be an inner turret, at least, for the side of BRION Blade.
Take a look at where Rise is right now. Noguri has gotten the call to just go for the push. They have the Baron minions. It's going to make this push a bit slower compared to this, but again, it's 5 versus 1, and actually, it is going to work out. BRION Blade are going to get the call to back away.
Not having the Sion ultimate actually encourages Rise to stay because the turret dive is so much harder now. There's no other way to force an engage, and they're sieging with a Cassiopeia is not massive. This is actually going to be a pretty nice move here. They're not going to be able to finish off the turret. Have to respect the Abyssal Voyage coming in. Don't think they're going to chase on for Noguri because they need 3 or 4 coming from multiple directions. One person comes in, he kills them. DAMWON Gaming, they're living on a prayer, Valdez, but not much more than that.
Yeah, I have to grimace after that. I just cringing a little bit. Things seem to be falling apart just a bit here for BRION Blade. They have the push, but you're going up against Baron buff. It's going to be much, much harder to get in there. Great call from the side of DAMWON Gaming to send the Rise down to push. He now has over 300 CS. He's more than Flame Horizon the Sion. Who's going to really go up against this Rise at this point?
Again, with the gold lead we're seeing and the Void Staff to negate what was coming from the Adaptive Helm. Fair question, Valdez. Don't have a great answer for you on that one. Outside of a gank brush, things are looking pretty meager when it comes to options to deal with him. Of course, Abyssal Voyage and some sort of gank might be able to come close to doing it. If this ends up being one of those come-from-behind victories for DAMWON, here's a prediction I want you to very much write down in pen. No one will be smiling and laughing on the side of DAMWON. They know they should have lost this game. This could have been door closed, Baron goes to the side of BRION Blade, but instead, they are now very much back in it. They are only 1,000 gold behind in spite of it being 10-1 in kills, Valdez. They can still find a way, but the way it happened, the actual VOD, watching all of these 27 minutes, there's a lot of alarm bells for the side of DAMWON Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, in the game itself, it was a fantastic bait down on the bottom side. It's part of the reason why the Cassiopeia is so strong right now, but even just the fact that they gave over the Cassiopeia, will that be a question going into the second pick ban phase? Because the coach seemed pretty comfortable. He's like, yeah, I mean, we gave her over. We're not too concerned about that. We got the picks that we wanted. We do have Katarina and Rise, but so far, those picks weren't able to give them a successful early game. my hope is that they'll change something up going into game number 2.
Again, getting what they want did indicate greed in this draft. It is Lucian, Alistar into a Cassiopeia bot lane. It is a Katarina into a Syndra lane. This is very much doing it their style at a certain cost, and that cost was much higher than they realized because BRION Blade's execution was pretty strong, all things considered, on both being able to punish bot lane. That was a great bot lane gank in any game, but especially in a game like this. Abyssal Voyage trying to chase on to the rise.
Oh, the Miasma just barely a second too late. Nuguri, he's been really good on that Rune Prison. Let's see what else DAMWON can get on the map. Looks like they're trying to rotate top, but shouldn't be too much.
And I'm sure DAMWON now knows, again, a tool is down. Suddenly, Katarina can get all these minion waves pretty greedily on the top side and not worry about being pincered on her side because they know Abyssal Voyage cooldown for another 50 seconds or so. Sion pushes out, farm totals get up, a 50,000 gold game where it's not a 5,000 gold lead for BRION Blade is what DAMWON Gaming have kind of been gifted. There's no real other word to use it. The next Baron, the next Drake, maybe that will be the source of the next fight, but DAMWON Gaming have to be careful. Remember, their lineup is very brittle, especially Punch can not really face check anything, otherwise he'll die to just a gust of wind from the direction of Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Syndra, but not only that, the Cassiopeia, the two of them in tandem. If you're anywhere near that, you only have Merc Treads and no other survivability, you're going to die. It's just going to happen. Surprised he hasn't picked up a Hex Drinker of his own. Maybe that'll be the next item, as he's been starved for gold, as he is 0-3-0.
So, 30 minutes fast approaching. Couple of Cloud Drakes kind of off screen here, not really been too focused on those, but they have been picked up. So 4 Drake games so far. This is one of those risk punches taking. Even just going for this move with some people revealed in lanes is super risky from the side of the Kazakhs. But they're just trying to put faith in the 4-1. They're trying to put faith in Noguri, and you know, the faithful may be rewarded, as Kobe said once upon a time. Again, in this particular game, Ryze has almost solo taken down this bot lane inhibitor turret. Nothing Sion can do, falling comically far behind. 130 CS odd now in the matchup. Turret will go down on this wave. It's about time for BRION Blade to no longer be giving DAMWON Gaming enough rope to hang themselves. They actually need to start being the ones to put the sword into DAMWON Gaming, and to teleport Sion is probably the way they have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an eventuality in the bottom lane, as you mentioned. The turret goes down, and eventually that inhibitor should be falling as well. But you'll notice now that Nuguri actually, after getting the turret, has decided, I'm not going to go straight down to the bottom lane just yet. Let me group up and see if I can be there present in the fight before any teleport comes off from the Sion, and maybe we can rotate that into a Baron.
And in a game so far, 30 minutes of popping balloons for DAMWON Gaming. We're popping the, like, these are the next world champions balloon. That's popped right now, of course, based on one game. Plenty of time to go, but feels like they definitely haven't lived up to the let's say, lay analyst hype on that one. So that's popped. Showmaker's Katarina into Syndra, it worked, so we're not necessarily popping the balloon, but it certainly wasn't a huge surprise. It did better than expected because he knows the matchup, the Hex Drinker was smart, but he hasn't done anything in the game, and when you consider the champions against, the reliability of teamfight Katarina was already pretty low, and giving up an early game is risky. So that balloon, in general, is popped. The Noguri balloon, which is one of the smaller ones because he struggled in the promotion matches, isn't being popped. This is Noguri showing the hype that was there for him. Again, back before promotions, he was right there next to all the other hype factors. It's nice to see him have a performance to elevate him, because after the promotion tournament, we were willing to kind of vacate some of that hype because he was so often chasing for kills. He was being, like, bot lane in this game have been guilty of. He's shown so much more restraint here, and I like that he's read the map so well to go back defensively again and again and not be ganked. Speaking of ganks, BRION Blade getting desperate, like we mentioned.
Uh-oh, Punch, look at that burst damage! He has a stopwatch, but why even use it? Well, is he actually going to get away? Okay, that's why you use it. Punch able to somehow get away, but he's super low on health. Now no flash, and this might be the chance for BRION to start the Baron.
It's definitely Baron time. Punch is going to start channeling the recall, but he's not sure he has to cancel it. As we know, Baron damage here is pretty good from the Cassiopeia. She's got half mana, though, so what you want to do here as DAMWON Gaming is find a way to play around mana bars. Cassiopeia going to get mana, though. She's got the blue buff now, hiding back.
It's really what she needed. That's perfect, especially with the build that she does have. But if she spams everything on the Baron,
is.
look at her mana. She has nothing right now, and they're teleporting. Looks like they want to get in here from behind. Fate nearly going to go down here. The Katarina gets in, but Tahm Kench to save her life as well as a stopwatch. Is she going to live in the end of this, though? Just barely trying to go in. The punch gets in into the back line. Lee Sin and KeSPA also fall. And DAMWON Gaming expertly get into this fight, and they're going to win it big time. Cube also going to go down. They're just trying to slow down the rest of them. Nuguri should be able to take down Hayden. Even if he does live, that is a huge fight win for DAMWON Gaming.
It was the dream for the Reset Assassins. They got no value out of the Scion because they could just go and choose their target front and back. They're just going to try and end the game because with the Death Timers here, this could be DAMWON Gaming just stealing it.
It looks like it should be 20 seconds left on both of those members that are coming up here. It's going to be a while, and I don't think Tahm can stop him alone. Somehow, some way, DAMWON Gaming come back from a massive deficit. They're trying to push this one in. We got a couple seconds for the Lee Sin. Nuclear tanking so much of that they're going to jump onto the Tahm Kench, and that should be able to do it. Lee Sin can't do anything alone. 1-0 goes to DAMWON Gaming.
And as we say, no one smiles on the side of DAMWON Gaming. Everyone has middling expressions because they stole that one. They pickpocketed victory from BRION Blade, the former Kongdu monster in game number 1. We're seeing these bot lane KeSPA players go into the Ludens for a burst build and then say, wait, KeSPA deletes Baron. Let's just make this about Baron. There's no way to do both things and have a mana bar for the turn fight. So KeSPA is out of mana. The Syndra is caught by one of the Reset Assassins. And then Scion, who's comically tanky, who can only be used for a fight. He was losing and vacated bot lane again and again. Doesn't even get to be a front line because he's on one side. The Resetting Assassins flank him. No value from the Scion. No value from the turn. And making that Baron play is what really cost BRION Blade from picking up this game on victory. A tale of two Barons. That's the only area where DAMWON Gaming were able to execute in a meaningful way over the side of BRION Blade.
Yeah, BRION Blade, definitely some stuff to go back to the drawing
Nuclear's
board
like,
in
thanks,
that
guys.
game. Nuclear's like, oh, well,
thanks to the carry.
I'm just glad that I'm even here still. Yeah, it's crazy how it came down to the two Barons, but I have to give it over to Punch too. He gets in there for the first steal after a horrid early game, gets the first steal. Second time on the Baron, he waits for his moment, dodges all the spells, and then gets there and kills the Syndra to start off the fight going in their favor. So even though he didn't have the best early game, he was present for the entire game. He didn't get tilted. Definitely a very strong point there for the side of DAMWON Gaming. So guys, we have a break. Before we do get into game number 2, we'll see you in a bit.